Hello, everybody. We're going to let you get settled and we'll start in just a minute. All right. First, we want to acknowledge the indigenous land on which TAO is headquartered. The Portland metro area rests on traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Malala, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River, creating communities and summer encampments to harvest and use the plentiful natural resources of the area. We take this moment to thank the original caretakers of this land. Hi, everyone. This is our third interview of the week for I Am Tech Oregon. Our I Am Tech Oregon series is sponsored by the First Tech Federal Credit Union. First Tech is more than just a bank. First Tech is a member-owned financial institution that's powered by a people before profit philosophy. I am Justin Martinez. I go by he, him, his pronouns. And for my Spanish-speaking friends, hola y bienvenidos. Me llamo Justin Martinez y este es Soy Tech Oregon. I'm TAO's event and program coordinator, and I'm learning when doing a daily series. It's difficult to come up with unique ways to do my intros each morning, so we'll see what comes out tomorrow. Today, I also have with me the lovely Kara Snow, who will be working with me to provide back-end Zoom support. And before we get started, I'd like to go ahead and tell you how today is set up. We have all participants muted upon entry. Please remain on mute unless a TAO staff member unmutes you and calls on you to talk. You may ask or respond to questions in the chat box publicly or privately by directing your message to Kara Snow, and we'll monitor the chat box as we continue. We also ask you to participate via the participant icon on your screen. We have allotted for time to have audience Q&A via Mentimeter. You can access the Q&A by scanning the QR code on your screen or visiting menti.com and using the voting code 6116362. We'll share these access details again once we reach that portion of today's interview. We also ask you to engage with us on social media during this call and throughout the day. We love to share what's happening with TAO, and you're a big part of that. Let our community know what you've learned and what they've missed. Now, I am very excited for our guest today. Please join me in welcoming Victor Villegas. Hi, Victor. How are you doing?
Hey, Justin. Muy bien, gracias. Thank you for speaking in Spanish. That was awesome.
We have a few people on staff that speak Spanish, and we're committed to practicing more. I'm from Texas originally, and I haven't been using my Spanish as much as I should. So more to come from that. Thank you.
Good for you.
So we've mentioned a few times and in our promotions that you are Oregon State University's Technology and Media Support Coordinator. For our members who may not be familiar or aware, can you share what your career journey has been and how you arrived where you are now?
Sure. And just a slight clarification, I'm not like tech and media support coordinator for all of the university. I'm specifically for OSU Extension. So it's kind of like the public facing side of OSU, right? We have the academic side, we have the research side, and then we have the public facing side. And so I help support our extension faculty and staff members across the state.
Very cool.
Yeah, but my journey, wow. It's very interesting. Probably have to go all the way back to when I was a kid. So born in East LA, Los Angeles, Southern California, to immigrant parents from Mexico. They both came here when they were younger and met here in the US and married, and I came to be. But that's important because I'm very proud of my heritage, my Mexican heritage. And they saw it that it was important for them, for me to also learn, Spanish as well as English. And so I grew up fully bilingual. We spoke both languages at home, felt very comfortable in either or. But anyways, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pilot. I mean, that was like my dream. The thing is, I also wanted to be a photographer, and I also wanted to be a musician. And I also, and not just like I decided I wanted to do one thing and I got tired of that and I want to do something. No, I wanted to do these things all at the same time, right? And so I would just read and learn as much as possible. I mean, we didn't have the internet back then, so it was library. So I'd go to the library, you know, and I'd start at one end of the section for like aviation, aeronautics, right? And I'd read like all the books in that section on airplanes and aviation, aerospace, whatnot. And then I'd go to all the ones that were about photography, right? And read all of those things. And so when I finished all the books, I'd go to like a bigger library, you know, then the next library, and just keep on reading that stuff. I was kind of like self-teaching myself as a young kid. Got into RC flying, you know, airplanes and stuff. When I graduated from high school, I actually went to take airplane mechanics. I figured if I knew how to fix the plane, I'd better have a better chance of getting a job as a pilot, right? I wanted to be like a corporate pilot. Took flying lessons, learned how to fly. Didn't quite get my private pilots. Life happened, you know, things changed, and I changed my major to graphics technology. So this is back in the 80s. This is when desktop publishing was just, you know, the first Mac. I saw like one of the first Mac Pluses, and I said, oh man, this is like the future of technology, right? And people say, no, it's just a toy. There's not even software for it, blah, blah, blah. But I could see, you know, the graphical user interface is like, this is going to change computing. This is what I want to get into. And being interested in photography, you know, digital photography, the possibilities, it was just black and white pixels back then, right? It just bitmap stuff, but I saw the possibilities and I saw the future when I saw that my first Mac. So I came in right at the time of the transition between analog and digital. So I was taking like pre-press classes. So I learned how to do the typical, you know, work in a dark room, shoot regular film and using the chemicals to develop the film and all that stuff. But we got some of those first Macs and we started playing around with that. So we had this, it wasn't Photoshop, it was called, I think it was called Digital Darkroom back then. And again, it was bitmap graphics, but you'd take pictures and it was all bitmapped. The fonts were all bitmapped, so each font size had to have their special, you know, it was made especially for that size. And then we got one of the laser printers, one of the very first laser printers. And Adobe came out with Illustrator, which did the Bezier curve, so you didn't have to have the bitmap graphics on a matrix printer anymore. And it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. We can now print an 8.5 by 11 page in a half an hour. Which back then, before that, you had to do stuff like in Linotronic type, and you had to enter in code to actually do typesetting. You didn't have a WYSIWYG screen to see anything. It was actually like similar like HTML, but even worse, right? You had to specify the font and how long the line was and the width and everything. And then you'd hit a button and it'd go through the machine and it would manually expose paper, you know, film paper, and you get the strip of paper that was burned with all that information. And if you messed up, you didn't know until you actually printed the paper. It's like, oh man, I messed up. I have to go and code it again, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And then you get this thing and you would paste it on a pasteboard with wax. And then you would shoot that with a analog camera and then you go develop it. Well, with the Macs, now we had something that was a lot closer to what you see is what you get, right? So we had PageMaker came in and we were able to place things. Stuff was still kind of rough. It was still black and white, but I saw the future as like, this is the digital revolution, right? And so I got an associate's degree in graphics technology and started working. Got my foot in the door into the commercial printing as a press operator because I learned how to do that too, but I really wanted to get into the digital side of things. And eventually that's what I did for a long time, was work in digital pre-press, you know, with the Macs. And I wasn't a designer, but I worked receiving designer files, and I'd had to fix all their problems, you know, with the trapping, if you're familiar with any of the printing type stuff. So I worked in digital pre-press. I I also did large format printing. Um, I even wrote for a magazine on large format printing at one time. But as I was working in that and kind of writing the whole desktop publishing revolution, which I saw from the beginning, I heard about this thing called the internet, right? And it's like, oh God, that's the next big thing. I had taught myself a little bit of like supercard and hypercard. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's just basically hyperlinking, but it was all within the computer itself, something that Apple developed. And the internet was, back then, it was just text with hyperlinks, right? But I understood the concept. And then I saw another at a UCR, University of Riverside, California. They have a photography museum. I went there and I saw another Mac. It was like a Mac SE at that point, I guess. And there's a little postage stamp, what looked like a GIF, you know, the rotating picture. I said, oh, that's a cool little animation. And the guy said, no, that's not animation. That's live video from someone across the country over the internet. I go, what the heck's that? It's like, well, it's a network thing where these computers are connected all across the US. And this person has a video camera and it's being digitized and you're seeing him on the video. And it was bitmap too. It was, you know, about this size, little tiny thing like this. And it was, you know, it was very shaky like this. It must have been like 12 frames per second or something. I don't know. And when he told me that, that was like live video, I was like, oh my word, that's the next big thing, right? I just knew instinctively this was the next wave of technology that was going to change everything. So desktop publishing, by that point, had already gotten into like color. You know, we had color computers. We were getting a lot more sophisticated and advanced with the software. We're using like Quark at that time. And then anyways, so I didn't want to jump because I was doing okay in commercial printing, but I kept my eye on the internet. I got to pay attention to this. So I learned a little bit of HTML, didn't really want to get into the coding side of things. I probably should have, because the tech bubble, you know, a lot of people made a lot of money at the beginning there, but I'm not a coder. You know, math was not my thing, and just making code. When I did the Linotronic thing, is like, I don't want to do that type of stuff. I want to do more visual stuff. Yeah. But I kept my eye on it. I was like, okay. And then, you know, a few years later, Apple comes out with their the FireWire, where you could connect a digital video camera to the Mac, and you could digitize video. Now you had desktop video production, right? It's like, that's it. I got to jump now. So I bought another Mac, because I already had an SE back. I've had a lot of Macs over the years. Bought a Mac, bought a camera, and taught myself digital video editing. And I told my boss at the time, who had told me, if you ever think of leaving, make sure you give me, you know, some advance notice so we can train persons. And so I came into him and said, remember you asked me about letting you know about transitioning? And he says, are you leaving? I go, kind of, sort of. I told him, I really want to get into a different career, but I'm giving you a year notice. So he was kind of surprised, like he thought it was like 2 weeks or a month or something like that. And it's like, no, it's plenty of time. He said, okay, I'm totally cool with that. We'll help you out. He was very supportive. And so I started learning everything I could about digital video production. I already knew some about digital photo, and eventually started my own little, you know, bilingual media production company, right? Kind of worked into that. Most of it pretty much self-taught. Eventually I was doing that, but I was getting a lot of interest from people. Says, well, you're bilingual. Why don't you do, we really need translators, medical translators. And so I ended up doing more translating, interpreting, and document, you know, translation, Spanish, English, than I was doing media production. It's like, it's great, but this is not what I want to do. I want to work with technology. I want to work with computers and things. So, and the economy kind of went down, and my wife said, well, you know, working for yourself is kind of risky with the economy going down. And so I found a full-time job as a media producer for a nonprofit organization here in Salem, Oregon. They work with people with disabilities, whatnot. And so I did videos for them in photography, but they also had like a very primitive HTML website. And I said, well, I could probably do a little bit better on that. And I had already been, again, because I had been following the internet type stuff, I saw that Drupal would probably be a better option for them. And so I subscribed to lynda.com, and took some of the courses there for Drupal, learned Drupal, did a whole bunch of local installs using MAMP on the Mac to play with virtual stuff, and eventually did a website on Drupal. And that's kind of what I was moving them towards. I, at the same time, because I was part of the marketing department, learned social media to help them out with that. So a lot of and that was the next thing, you know, the next revolution is like social media. Oh my word, that's another thing, another wave I have to ride. So learn all about that. Unfortunately, I got laid off there. Things got a little bit tough. And was out of work for about 3-4 months. It's a little tough when you don't have a bachelor's degree, you know, for some reason they don't want to take all this experience that one has. I mean, they won't even take a look at me without a degree, even though I had probably more experience and knowledge than a lot of people that were putting the job out there, right? So I could have helped a lot of folks, but they just wouldn't even look at me at all without that 4-year degree. So whatever, and I got a job offer as a medical translator. Sure thing, right? I could start right away. And I saw this job offering at OSU, which was doing everything I've ever wanted to do. It was technology. They preferred someone that was bilingual. They wanted someone that knew Drupal. They wanted someone that knew social media. They wanted to know someone that knew video production. I was like, oh my God, this is like the most perfect thing in the world. But I had this other job offer, and I did the interview, a couple of interviews with OSU, but they couldn't tell me if they would hire me yet. I was one of the finalists, and the other job says, well, we can't wait. You know, we need to know, will you take this job or not? And so I had to take that gamble of, will OSU say yes or no, versus a sure thing with this other one, right? Which didn't pay a lot, but it was a sure thing, right? It was a job and it was full time, and there was a little bit of benefits. But OSU job was just so intriguing and exactly what I wanted to do. And I took that gamble, and I'm very glad I did, because I got hired, and it's just been a joy. I mean, I've been there for about 8 years now. It's just been awesome. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, I talk about following your passions and keeping up with tech and reinventing yourself. That's inspiring. It's and a lot of it with technologies that were newly emerging and things that you really went after yourself.
I've been kind of like a futurist, right? I saw the things coming ahead of time, and I've been very fortunate to have saw it in time, you know, on the ground floor as per se, and kind of just ride that out. So desktop publishing revolution, boom, internet revolution, social media revolution, digital media production revolution, right? The whole thing. And so all of those experiences prepared me for what I'm doing at OSU, which is helping people with digital online technologies, right? Yeah. So it just all culminated with that. Now, going back to my wanting to be a pilot, and this is a funny thing. So the photography thing, you know, I did the photo production, and people are going, well, what about the pilot and the music? Well, here's where it really gets interesting. So I was teaching faculty and staff how to use social media, and people would say, what a waste of time. My clients are not on social media. I don't have time for that. You know, it's just a fad, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, no, you don't get it. And I said, okay, I got to take a step back. I cannot keep on just teaching just the how to do it. I need to give them a reason why, right? And so I said, okay, what can I do as one person with no budget to show people the power of social media? So I started thinking, this was back in 2014. It's around the holidays, Christmas time, well, kind of just around this time. I said, okay, what can I do to make something go viral? And so again, I was into aviation. Drones were a big thing. I was flying drones. I learned that OSU was doing research with drones. That was really cool. I was like, okay, I'm going to make a public service announcement, a PSA, using free tools about drone safety, because that's going to be a very hot item for Christmas. People are going to be buying drones and they're not going to, be flying them responsibly or safely. So I'm going to make a public service announcement, but not any public service announcement. I am going to create a song, a parody song, and in it, I'm going to talk about drone safety. So I said, okay, because I knew music, right? I mean, I'd studied music and I'd learned different instruments as a kid, and I knew drones, I knew aviation, and I know social media, and I know digital media production. So I got Audacity to do the audio recording, which is freely available software. I used just the laptop onboard mic, was nothing sophisticated. So I wanted to make sure I could do stuff that anybody else could do, even if you didn't have a budget, and just show the possibilities of social media, right? With like no budget whatsoever. So I wrote lyrics for a Christmas song based on the song I'll Be Home for Christmas. And I changed the lyrics to If You Get a Drone for Christmas, right? I used freely available software to do this animation of people and drones flying over people and all kinds of stuff, and text. And it was a parody song, but it had a safety message in that PSA. And then I put it out there on Twitter and Google Plus, back when Google Plus was a thing, Facebook and whatnot, YouTube, but mainly Twitter. I think Twitter was, did I do LinkedIn? Can't remember if I was doing LinkedIn. Probably not back then. Anyways, I had already been following some influencers and people in the drone industry, right? And so those were the first people I started kind of like going to. Oh, and the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, came out with their own video the day before I was releasing mine. So they preempted my video. I was like, no, they were thinking the same thing I was. But when I saw their video, it's like those old, science videos you used to see in classroom, and that film reel was like,
yeah,
it was an animation, but it was geared towards kids, but it was stupid. It was just like, kids are going to tune off after the first 2 seconds. This is terrible. And so I started messaging people in the drone industry and says, hey, what do you think of my, music drone safety video compared to the FAA's? Everybody thought it was like hilarious and it was awesome. And the FAA had a hashtag. It says "No before you fly," and I hijacked their hashtag, and I was putting my video with their hashtag, and then asking people which video they preferred. So within the drone industry itself, it just kind of just caught wildfire. People asked, "Do you have other songs?" And I guess so. I was on vacation at the time, Christmas break, and I wrote like 4 or 5 other drone carols, parodies. Put them up on YouTube, and then I started getting calls for like interviews. I got interviewed by Network World, the online version, because I was in technology, and said, "Well, this is interesting. You're writing songs about drones, but you're a tech worker." And I said, "Yeah." And then connecting with a lot of folks in the industry, so on and so forth. So anyways, short story is that I did personal branding online. I go as Drone Singer, one word, drones. If you want to Google that, you'll see all the stuff that comes up there, SoundCloud, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. And it brought me so much attention. USDA NIFA invited me to be part of a drones in agriculture because I was associated with OSU, and I was sharing information on drone research in agriculture. So I was part of a grant to set up a drones in agriculture learning network where we were sharing information across the different land grant universities on research using drones for agriculture. They flew me out to Texas, fully paid to go to a meeting with a whole bunch of really smart people, these PhD this, PhD that, and they're saying all this research that they're doing with drones. They come to me as well, what do you do? I go, I make silly songs about drones. And it's like, what? And it's like, and it was a little shocking. I don't even have a bachelor's degree, and I'm here hobnobbing with all these PhD, really smart people. It says, look, wait a minute. It's like, communications, social media. We need to get webinars out. We don't know how to do that. And so I became the technical support person, the technical guy behind this learning network, set up the Facebook page, set up the Twitter, did the communications, was sharing stuff online, was doing the webinars, and because I was a tech person, and it was a very good fit. They supplied all the content, the expertise on the drones and agriculture stuff, and I supplied all of the tech support side and communication side of things. That led to, again, USDA NIFAS, invited me out to Washington, D.C. a couple of times, well, about 3 or 4 times actually, but 2 of them specifically for the USA and Science Engineering Festival that happens every 2 years. So I went in 2016 and 2018, I believe it was, to talk about drones in agriculture to kids, because I had songs and I had I have my little drone Juan, the drone lover. He has a Twitter account, by the way. You can look him up. And I'd fly this little tiny drone off kids' hands, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is awesome." I had some virtual software where they could fly a drone virtually in a computer, and I'd sang my songs on stage there for a little bit, and it was awesome. And this led to another part of that grant with this learning network. A part of it was actually doing outreach and engagement with K through 12 kids, specifically 4-H, right? Which is so I came up with a workshop, which was called Drones in Agriculture for STEAM Education, which I would teach kids about drones in agriculture. What is a drone? How do they fly? The physics behind it. So a lot of the STEM related, what are the different, what's an IMU, inertial movement unit? What's the chip? What's GPS? Rotation, electrical systems, all of that stuff, plus how to fly the drones. And I had little drones that they could fly, and we have iPads that they can use to program using block programming. And it's kind of teaching the basics of coding, right? And so I do a lot of K through 12 STEAM outreach and engagement. I sing some of my songs. I got a song that talks about the technology of drones, and I got songs in English and Spanish. So I'm reaching a lot of the kids that typically do not don't have the exposure, right, or the background of technology. And I am able to bring them in through the arts, either through my silly songs or you see some puppets here. I do puppetry. I mean, I do anything to get kids interested in learning. I'm just a crazy old, big old kid.
Yeah, that's great. That brings me, I have one more question for you before we start asking the audience for their questions. Sure. We've been asking each of our guests, and of course, learning that the answer to this question is rather nuanced, and with your experience in various types of technology and your growth and different interests, yours will also be nuanced. As you're entering the workforce and the tech industry and what you do, did you see yourself largely represented? And if so, or if not, why do you think that might be?
Yeah, so when I started in commercial printing, right, I entered the industry, no, but I wasn't looking for it either. I mean, if you look at me, I don't typically look like Latino, Hispanic. I mean, I could pass for a little bit of, yeah, you too, Justin, a little bit of everything. My mom is she's whiter than me, really, really white. And my dad is a lot darker, right? And there's no doubt when you see him, it's like, oh, well, yeah, he's not, he's not a white male, you know. He worked in blue collar. He was a mechanic and a handyman. My mom was a secretary. High school was as high as they went, right? But I don't have an accent when I speak English, and my skin color is lighter, so people didn't really care other than my last name. And then my last name every once in a while, you know, would be something that people would be biased on, like just in a if they didn't see me. But if they saw me, it's like, okay, he's just like everyone else. And so to me, it didn't really affect me in work, and I wasn't looking for others like me, even though I was proud of my heritage. But I'm an American first, right? I was born in the USA, so that didn't bother me. But with time, I started noticing, it's like, okay, the janitors, the plate makers, the low level workers in printing were the Latino Hispanics, right? And I was noticing that they and myself were the ones that were coming in early and leaving late. And everybody else, you know, who was white male, could get away with anything, right? They were paid better. They always had an excuse. They had left. And why was it the Latino Hispanics were always the ones that were always working, but getting treated worse, right? And so that kind of stuck with me. And I was very fortunate, again, because I don't, you know, for good or bad, my skin color is not a barrier, and my language skills is not a barrier for people, so they don't look at me like that. And I was able to get into the higher stuff, right? Into the technology, into the digital prepress. And no, I did not see my being represented by my culture in any of that. Not in digital video, not in internet, not in anything, right? And even here at OSU, I'm just starting to see some of that stuff. So that is one of the reasons that I try to do a lot of K through 12 outreach engagement, specifically for underserved, underrepresented youth, you know. And I'll go out of my way, especially with Latino Hispanic, because that's my background. And I have kids who English is not their primary language, and I am able to interact with them and teach them about science, technology, engineering, art, and math in their language with their culture. So you see this Mariachi NASA guy back here. So I'm involved with a Mariachi STEAM camp. So we bring middle school, high school students to campus at OSU in Corvallis during the summer for a whole week. It's a college experience. So they live in the dorms, eat in the cafeterias, and we teach them mariachi music, which is the draw that, you know, they play in mariachi bands in their high schools or middle schools. And then we teach them that and the history of mariachi music. But once we have them on campus, we then expose them to the science, technology, and engineering and math behind music, you know. So we have faculty members, and we try to get as much as of those faculty and students, OSU students, that are represented of that demographics, right? So Latino Hispanics. And we teach them, you know, digitization of audio. You know, what does a trumpet or a violin sound like when you digitize it and manipulate it within a computer, you know, and sequence it in different things, or using Arduino to play a sequence of, you know, a mariachi song using computer coding or whatnot. So all kinds of different things like that. And this last year, we were not able to obviously do in person, so we were really sad. But me, I'm always on Twitter every day. I saw this opportunity. There was this competition. It was a science communication where they were pairing up scientists with creatives and try to, the theme was COVID, right? So science communication about COVID. And so they paired me up with a teacher out in Texas who has a lot of Latino Hispanic students. And I said, you know what? I am going to do a online workshop with Latino youth, teaching them how to create songs. So it was called COVID Corridos. So corrido is a typical Mexican song style that's usually about some catastrophic event, and what's more catastrophic than a pandemic, but we taught them the history of corridos. I taught them how to write lyrics. We taught them Audacity. This was in conjunction with some Latino, what was it called? There's a group of Latinos or Latinx networking group within Intel, right, up in Hillsborough. And we had a couple of them teach the science behind audio digitization or audio, digital conversion. Intel donated some USB microphones for the kids. We taught them Audacity. We taught them how to record audio into the computers and edit. And then they sent me those files of them playing mariachi, a song that I composed, right? And the lyrics that I composed, but they sang and they did the instruments. And this was all virtual. This is done over Google Docs. So they were learning how to work virtually together. They were learning how to use technology. And we created a kind of like a crowdsourced song about COVID and put that online. So this is why it's very important for me, their representation, right? They're seeing someone like them in technology, having fun, and being cool with and okay with being Hispanic and Latino and being proud of that, and still working in technology and not being a math whiz, but still working in technology, and they see that, and not just me, but other people that I bring in who also represent that. And it's like, you know what? I could probably do that, and I have a lot of kids come up to me and say, I want your job. And it's like, that's great, because I don't want to be doing this forever. I want to retire eventually. So we need people like you, but you need to study and you need to learn and as much as possible. Yeah. So I'm hoping that I am kind of preparing the next generation. At least I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
That's those positions in your organizations, in your companies.
Yeah, that's inspiring. I'm so excited to hear about what you do and bringing these students in and meeting them where they are rather than expecting them to come to you, because they haven't traditionally been told this is an option for you. So doing more outreach, and that's something that TAO is striving to do, is doing more outreach and involving students at a younger age so that they know this is an option for you. It's an option for everyone. You just have to go after it.
Yeah. And they usually don't know about those things, right?
Yeah.
They just know that, it's like, this drives me nuts. We have a lot of, the Latino Hispanics that do go to higher ed eventually end up in low paying jobs of, the social workers, right? Mm. Which, it's good, and that's what they're usually driven towards, right? But it doesn't pay well. And the social services, nonprofit organizations, come on, we need people in technology that then make enough money that then they can invest that back in youth and then bring everybody up, right? And so that's kind of what I'm pushing.
Yeah, awesome. Everyone, if you have questions to submit to Victor, you can go to menti.com and use the voting code 6116362. There's a reminder at the top of the screen. We do have one question that's already in. What is your favorite drone song, Victor?
I'm sure that's not a plant question.
It might be carrot.
But that's fine. All right. Well, glad you asked, because I got my ukulele here. So let me play one. This is the one I sing at workshops for kids. It's the first thing I sing, because it talks about drone technology. And it's actually a interactive song. It's a little tough over Zoom because of the lag, but hopefully you can, sing to yourself and join me in the chorus there softly. So I don't know, can you hear look there?
Yeah.
My drone has fleas. Old ukulele joke. All right, here we go. Hey. Let me tell you about drones. Just listen to me sing. Yeah, they are cool flying robots with awesome technology. They have IMUs to help stabilize. Some have GPS to guide them in the sky and fly autonomously. singing, yeah, 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 yeah. This is where you go, yeah, 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 yeah. Say it loud, say it clear. Drones are cool. Drones are cool. There are many kinds of drones. Some are small, some are big. There are even drones you could race and fly FPV. Yeah, there are multi-rotor drones. Some are fixed wing. They are controlled via radio frequencies. They are used for many different things. Singing, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Say it loud. Say it clear. What? Drones are cool. Drones are cool. One more verse. If you want to fly drones, please fly responsibly. Stay away from airplanes, airports, yes indeed. Yeah, read the manual through and through, learn to calibrate, or you might crash and it's too late. Fly your drone, fly safely. Singing, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Say it loud, say it clear. What? Drones are cool. Drones are cool. Yeah. Hey, a telodrone. Awesome, Mark. Very, very cool.
Well, thank you so much, Victor. We're really close to time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. We definitely let TAO know when the next Mariachi camp is coming up and we can help promote it or get some more students or be a part of it. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Most definitely.
We'll make sure that we do provide information about OSU, and Victor and his experience. We'll be posting today's recording both on YouTube and sharing it internally within TAO's community. If you enjoyed today, tomorrow we'll be speaking with Corinne Cipher. She's a website marketing manager at DAT. We're super excited to also hear from her. You can also continue to follow the series with the hashtag IamTechOregon. This series will actually continue into 2021. So we would love to hear what you liked about this week's series, who you would be interested in hearing from, or who you'd like to come back. Victor, thank you again for being with us today and taking the time to tell us about your career journey. Do you have any last comments or parting words for everyone?
Well, first of all, thank you, Justin, Kara, and Tech Association of Oregon for the invitation. Been a pleasure. Love connecting with you all. And I invite anyone who's interested in partnering, collaborating with me, OSU Extension, in doing K through 12 STEAM outreach and engagement. Give me a ring. Happy to talk and, maybe do some co-presentations, talk to your employees, whatever. I mean, I'm up for anything. So feel free to connect on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can look me up as Drone Singer in Google and you'll find all my stuff. So thank you again for the opportunity. And I encourage you to challenge those folks. You're looking for diversity. You might want to reconsider that hard limit of a bachelor's degree, right? And I know tech is probably more open. I mean, the only reason I got into OSU is because they couldn't find the right people, right? They weren't teaching the stuff in university. You didn't have a social media degree back then. You didn't have a digital stuff. And so the only reason I got in was because of one word, and that word was or, 4-year degree or 5 to 7 years experience. I had more than enough experience. And so imagine how many other people like myself are getting passed over that could really benefit your company. And you're looking for creative people, you're looking for folks with a lot of experience, but if you limit yourself just to, and I know the reasons why, you get all these applications, but still think about how someone like me could help your organization, right? And how many other kids, because I didn't even go into the reasons why I didn't get into for college, but someone from my background, we don't typically have the chances or opportunities that others do, right? And so we many times get passed over. So be open. That's all I ask. So Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor. It's been great chatting with you, and everybody have a wonderful Wednesday.
Victor, you're awesome.
Thanks, Gara.